So I got Chris Sanich on the phone, the telepathy phone. You there, Chris Sanich? Yeah, I think so. I got, who else I got here? Got Elon Musk. Got General Mattis. So probably some lurkers. I can't really control it. I don't really know who has access. Anyway, so we're going to talk with Chris Sanich about his the TempleOS, and first of all, we're going to get an x86 IBM PC version going. Then we're going to make a new CPU, and let me just tell you what, you know, I didn't want to do this at first because TempleOS doesn't have networking, and one of the, you know, what is the distinguishing characteristic of a rabbit? The long ears, right? So like once you got your raison d'etre, your reason to be, if you get away from your reason to be, then you're off course, right? So like, make a long story short, if I added any PCI device to TempleOS, it would become, let's just say, it would double in size and get ugly. And at this point, I would disown it. So basically, it defines the limitations. Now, an RS-232 I/O port based serial is trivial, and there's a driver in the demo, in the doc directory, doc.com, and so I was thinking there wasn't going to be networking, and that limited us to being a dual boot operating system with a network operating system. But I got a new plan. The new plan is RS-232 dial-up copper alternative to the internet. So we're gonna make a standalone. It's like an Xbox or something with the RS-232 serial port. Okay, so part of the value we deliver is what teenage white nerd doesn't love writing RS-232 serial drivers. You know, if he could, he'd love it, right? And in assembly or some shit like that. That's what that's what our generation did, right? That used to be everybody wrote a RS-232 serial driver, right? In the age of DOS, we were all doing that shit, right? So so this Xbox, it's gonna be the Temple. It's going to have RS-232 Octart, 8-channel. Use serial for keyboard, mouse. You can have a modem, and I might as well have 8 spares. Or not 8 spares, I mean a total of 8, and you can have okay, the original vision for TempleOS was a modern Commodore 64. Commodore had the maximum memory of any the personal computers at that time, and it was not pathetic, right? So today we're talking like 128 gig of RAM. I don't know what you can do with it. But fuck it. You know, a hot rod, you know, you don't use that power every day, but it just feels good to fucking throttle it, right? Fuck it. God said, don't be a Grinch that stole Christmas. Hey, fuck you. Like Peter Gadd was Mr. No, you know they should be using our Raspberry Pi. Hey, fuck you, Mr. Grinch. Go fuck yourself. We're gonna give them 64. Okay, here's the deal. keyboard, serial mouse, serial keyboard, serial mouse. The keyboard itself, as a matter of fact, I'm king, and we're probably going to get rid of a couple letters, I guess, out of the alphabet. Y is being replaced, I is being replaced with Y, and we're AA is going to become a diphthong. I guess to get rid of one of the other vowels, I have to think about it. At Ticketmaster, one of the things we did was Radix 51, which is Radix. That's octal 51, decimal 41. 41 cubed is 65536, basically. 3 characters and 2 letters. The Commodore is producing in quantity about 20 million for white Americans. God said the Commodore was our ancestral land, and basically you kick this. The Bible says don't move the old landmarks and stuff. You know, we have a God-given right to, in white teenage nerd America, to write our own on bare metal drivers for our fucking hardware. The shit has to be simple enough for a teenager to control any of those goddamn hardware devices. So we're gonna have keyboard, mouse, ATA, port IO, hard disk, ATA, PI, TAPI, CD-ROM. I guess we'll go DVD, CVD. I've never done Blu-ray. I'd like to. Fuck it. I'd like it to be Blu-ray. And right now it doesn't. I've never done a Blu-ray. So, we want VGA graphics. We want not. Dot said he wants 640 by 480 16 color for all time. I'll have to explain to you. It's a strange concept. For now, just take my word for it. What we want is a new video controller that looks. It's VGA, except we want to fix up the bit plane. Get rid of the 4 bit planes. Replace it with a frame buffer in memory. Replace it with the 1 byte per pixel frame buffer. Yeah, I know there's only 16 bits, but just trust me. Replace it with the 1 byte per pixel frame buffer using only 4 bits. Using only 4 bits for color. I know it sounds crazy. So, and then we're gonna have a sound. God wants a 7-bit signed. 7-bit signed sound. Not signed, well, he wants 7-bit. I said, what the fuck is 7-bit? He wants 88 piano keys. He doesn't like the death screams, right? You ever remember like the TRS-80 had a real limited sound? That's what he wants. He wants 88 tones. I don't know what tone we want. Do we want piano? No. I think we want might as well. What do we want? A sinusoid, a square wave? I don't know. I don't think he wants waveforms. That's too complex. Basically, we're making something simple. Okay, we already got a complicated computer. It's a bitch to program, right? We're learning from mistakes. So, to deliver to a teenager a simple computer he can program, we're going to make it so simple there's not even 4 waveforms. It's just 1 waveform, 88 piano keys. He puts a number in a port, gets his tone output, and that's how it works. And so what's our goal? Our reason to be is simple, being simple. So we can't get too far from that. So anyway, how much we need? So I was gonna get a CPU made. The CPU itself will become a topic of study in all the college computer science courses. Everybody's going to learn the internals of this chip. Yeah, I studied the VAX architecture and some of the other architectures in my computer architecture course. This is going to be I don't. What's the word pedantic mean? I don't know what the word. No, I don't think it's going to be a. It's going to be a. cherished, ultra simple, super high power. Well, it's going to be like the maximum power that you can get with simplicity. So, so in other words, we're not going to do pipelining and all that CPU fancy scheduling stuff. We're going to take in my digital 120, my CSC 120 digital fundamentals course, we worked our way up to building a CPU from in Logic Works, starting with build transistors, putting them together to make logic gates, taking gates, putting them together to make flip-flops, and putting them together to make an AL, an arithmetic logic unit. So here's what we want. We want it has to be perfect. That's one of the characteristics of Jews and God and stuff like that. So we take your basic. Normally they do a case study with an 8-bit CPU in a digital design course. We're just going to widen it to 64-bit bus, and we're going to have we're going to have three. There's going to be what are there, about 16 standard ALU operations: XOR, AND, NOT, complement. Wait a minute, complement. We have to decide on the opcodes. So there's patents on that shit. King says he gets to pick the opcodes. Anyway, just use the Intel standard nomenclature. So you get your standard. I was thinking of getting aggressive, and since it is a 64-bit out the door, we could get rid of carry. If you wanted to be hyper aggressive, you can get rid of the carry. It'd be kind of harsh, but that's the kind of thinking I want. Is our thinking is that we're starting with a clean slate. It has to be perfect. We want it as minimal as possible, and well, if it's for educational purposes, I guess we want to carry, don't we? That's kind of that's the answer to that question. But here's the deal. My compiler, when it fetches a byte, it extends it to 64-bit signed or unsigned. When it fetches a 16, it promotes when the compiler fetches something from memory, it promotes it to 64-bit into a register. It does all operations at the 64-bit size. It doesn't fuck around with smaller size multiplies and smaller size divides and stuff. And then it stores it back into a smaller location if that's what's required. So my Holy See language is defined with some peculiar results because it doesn't do it on 16-bit. Then you get some strange results. But that's part of the definition of the language. So anyway, so we need a dynamic RAM driver. I guess it's got to have a ROM, doesn't it? So I think we want a fixed ROM. I don't want to. This is the Trojan horse. Once you put that uncertainty in there, it puts everybody in a trance of confusion. It creates Don Quixote talked of enchantments that confuse people. They look at something and they see one thing. You can cast a magic spell over people once you give them a chip with a firmware that can be. If they got a ROM, they're in a completely different state of reality than if they got a electrically reprogrammable firmware. Now they're gonna constantly thinking, uh-oh, did someone change my firmware? But if you got a ROM, that thought never enters your mind, because we're not even using changeable technology. We're going to use the goddamn old school ROM that physically could not fucking change. We're going to be using CD-ROMs for storage. It's like, You put that on the fucker. We want write once. We don't want rewritable. Fuck that. I'm tired of this Fahrenheit 451 kind of nightmare. So that's the plan for the